Welcome into Saturday Locks, your home for college football picks of the week. Thanks for joining us. We're going into week 5, games to be played on Saturday, September 27th. The season record was pretty good, decent last week, 2-2. So we're at 10-6 on the season, 60%, still very good. Obviously, the hot start, that 4-0 first week was really the driver of that 3-1 second week. So we've tailed off a little bit since then, but that's the game of betting. That's how it's going to work. The goal, of course, is to always be over 60%. So hopefully we can get above that with maybe 3 or 4 wins this week. I am going to give you a bonus pick today that should give you 5 total. I struggled to add whether I wanted to put it in my official picks, but I'm going to bet it. So I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to go 5 picks this week. I don't always do 5, but this week there's 5. Lot of good ones to talk through. And we've got some big ones, big matchups. Alabama, Georgia. We're going to talk Indiana, Iowa. We're going to talk Ohio State. We got a lot of big matchups out there. There were a couple more that I actually really wanted to put on here because the public money was scaring me a little bit and wanted me to go a certain way. I'll tell you that right now. That's Duke-Syracuse. I'm not betting on it, but check out the Duke-Syracuse line. Syracuse lost their quarterback, and I like Darian Mensah from Duke. But 97% of public money is going on Syracuse because it sounds like, according to the numbers, it looks like some big sharps, some big whale bettors have put a ton of money on Syracuse, which is odd to me. I don't really know how I feel about that, but I'm going to stay away from it. All right, so let's start off by going through last week. So last week we had Iowa -2.5 at Rutgers. That came through. That was a Friday night game. NC State at Duke -3. That came through. I've been a pretty big believer in Duke so far this year because of Darian Mensah. But again, not on that Syracuse game. Illinois +6.5 at Indiana. Wow, that was a disaster. Illinois had some major issues. They obviously lost some defensive backs. Indiana, I give them credit. I hate Indiana. I really wish this wasn't happening, but I give them credit. Whatever. Syracuse at Clemson -16.5. Listen, I'm done. I'm done betting on Clemson. The only thing that I've ever been successful with Clemson on the year was an under bet, which I was right about. But everything else, Clemson's just totally screwed me. So I'm done with that. You'll never see me bet a Clemson bet again. I am, however, going to take a team that I lost with last week because I like to do that because of a thing called recency bias. But we're going to get to that. All right. First up, we're talking Alabama, Georgia, and I'm going Georgia -3 here. Okay. So first of all, as a Badger fan and seeing what happened in Tuscaloosa a couple weeks ago, we learned a couple things. First of all, we learned that Ty Simpson can really sling it. He is pretty good. We also learned that Alabama can't run the ball. And if you can't run the ball against Wisconsin's defense, you're not running the ball against Georgia. You're just not. It's not going to happen. So that's number one. Number two, Ty Simpson is a really good quarterback, but he's not going to be as successful against Georgia's defensive backfield. I mean, come on, it's Georgia. Like they've got much better players. On top of that, you've got Gunnar Stockton on the other side, Georgia's quarterback. You've got running back Nate Frazier. There's a lot of good weapons on Georgia's team. They beat Tennessee. They haven't had a super difficult schedule other than the Tennessee game, which they did win on the road in overtime. But look, I still think Georgia is a really, really good team here. The SEC is interesting. Home field means a ton, okay, especially in this matchup. Now, Georgia's favored by 3, which means, and 3 points is basically what you get for home field advantage. And I say in the SEC that you get more like 4.5 points because the home field advantage is so dominant there. And it's a ruckus crowd. It's a huge atmosphere, So I think that basically what the line is saying here is that Vegas almost thinks Alabama is a little bit better on a neutral field. I don't believe that to be true. Wisconsin looks like a bigger win on paper than it really is because we all know how the Badgers really are this year. And I think there are some major warts on Alabama's team that are going to get exposed here. So I'm taking Georgia -3 at home, 3-point favorites. You can maybe get this line at 2.5, depending on if you're using FanDuel or wherever you're using it. Where I use it here in Vegas on a place called Stations Casinos. I can only get it at -3. I'm always going to give you the lines that I can actually get. So -3, Alabama, Georgia, big game. All right, so the next 2 games have a little bit of recency bias in them. And we're going to move on to a big matchup in the Big Ten, Indiana at Iowa. Okay, so we all know what Indiana did last week. They absolutely destroyed Illinois, which means that they are getting a bit of a bump in this line because of the fact that they had this massive win on the road the week before. At home the week before. And it was huge. No one's taking that away from Indiana. They had a great game. They played great. However, again, Illinois had some major issues with their defensive secondary. Iowa's a really good defensive team, and Iowa's playing at home. And I don't think there's a world that Indiana wins by more than a touchdown on the road at Iowa. Now, listen, I've been wrong about Indiana before. I could be wrong about Indiana again, but I'm going to trust the fact that Iowa's starting to play a little bit better. Mark Gronowski is figuring it out a little bit. They're getting a little bit of offensive cohesion, yet they still have solid defensive prowess. I mean, can you imagine a game, a time when Indiana could have actually gone to Iowa and done that? Now, I know Indiana's a different team, and I get it. Mendoza's playing really well. I would argue that, again, Illinois certainly was banged up, but they did handily beat them. You could argue, has Indiana really been tested? I know you're going to say, well, Illinois was number 9 in the country. Of course, they got tested, and they were. But this is a road test against a really good team, against a solid team. I wouldn't say really good, a solid team on the road in the Big Ten, a team in Iowa that always tends to show up defensively, special teams. Rutgers did put up points on them. So there is that debate whether or not Iowa's that strong defensively. But I just don't think Indiana can continue doing this. And I could be proven very wrong. I could, if I bet against Indiana and I lose again, then fine, I'll do the Clemson thing and I'll say I'm done with them. But I think the recency bias actually puts this line a bit closer. I would say this is more of like a 3.5 or 4 point favorite because I think this is a close game. If you're giving me 8 points for a home dog, a dog that always tends to play well at home and always tends to do well in games like this, yeah, give me Iowa. I will take the points. Iowa +8 at home against Indiana. Now to the flip side of that recency bias, the Illinois-Indiana game really is helping lines. It affected lines this week. So USC at Illinois. Okay, Illinois again got smoked last week. Xavier Scott, cornerback, he's out. He's out for the season, I believe. For sure. Yeah, I think he had a surgery, so he's done. However, Brett Bielema has been a little bit cagey with the other defensive backs and whether or not people will play. He did make a comment that the other secondary players have practiced this week, but we don't really know what that means. We as Badger fans, we know that Brett Bielema tends to be a bit secretive with a lot of his roster, and that's fine. But look, USC is really good. Jade Mayava is all of a sudden now sort of being rocketed to the top of Heisman lists. Wide receiver Mekhi Lemon. They've got a lot of weapons, and certainly Lincoln Riley is building something at USC after their first year into the Big Ten wasn't what they expected. Illinois is a good team. I understand that if you can say there's a massive mismatch with USC's offense against Illinois' defense if the secondary is not there. I totally hear that argument, and I understand. And I think that, yes, USC is going to put up points. But the problem is, so is Illinois. Luke Altmaier is still a good quarterback who I definitely believe in. And give credit to Illinois. They did really well. Sorry, Indiana, they did really well, and they really held them down. I don't think that happens again. USC is not as good as Indiana, and USC is going on the road. It is a earlier kick, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's an early kick because I know Lincoln Riley was complaining about that this week. Either way, sometimes when these West Coast teams travel east, it's not an easy thing to do. Illinois got embarrassed on the national stage last week. They are out for blood. And I know that Illinois is probably not as good as people thought they were based on the results, but USC is also not as good as people think they are. Another home dog getting nearly a touchdown. Some places you can get this at 7. I sadly couldn't. I wish I could have got it at 7. I can only get it at 6.5. So that's the one I put on the board. I'm taking Illinois at home +6.5. So that's now 2 big dogs. Iowa at home +8. Illinois at home +6.5. It's very difficult to bet on big road favorites. Especially when you've got some huge result the week before that is driving the number the other way. So give me Illinois. I will take the points. So I just told you about how I don't want to take a lot of road big time favorites, but the next one is just going to be Ohio State -8.5 at Washington. Again, this is a game where I understand that people would say, well, Washington's really good. I mean, 8.5 is a lot of points on the road. Washington hasn't really played anybody yet. Okay. They haven't really played anybody. They haven't really been tested. They played some decent games. They played well. Damon Williams is playing okay. I mean, he's playing pretty well. 72% completion percentage. I don't think he's really turned the ball over as far as interceptions. And it is Julian Saint's first true road test, right? It's Ohio State is leaving Columbus. They are heading out. They are going to have a really, really difficult game. But I don't think it's going to be that difficult. Julian Saint's really good. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, like the list goes on and on for Ohio State at where they're strong. Caleb Downs on the other side of the ball. Because Julian Saint is making his first road start, and it's going to be a difficult environment up in Washington. The weather is going to be pretty strong, pretty good in Seattle. I think Ohio State runs away with this game. I'm actually shocked that the line's only 8.5. I would have put the line closer to like 11.5 or 12, maybe even closer to 14. I know that people believe in Washington a little bit this year. They're a sexy pick to sort of rise in the ranks in the Big Ten and make a splash. I don't buy it. Ohio State's the best team in the country. I think that's pretty clear at this point. You can argue other teams are up there, but I think Ohio State is pretty much as good as it gets. So I'm taking Ohio State, happily laying the 8.5 at Washington. All right, so I've got a bonus pick for you today. I normally don't do 5, but something is calling me with this one. And I'm going back to the Alabama-Georgia game. So Alabama-Georgia, I am taking the under 53.5. This is interesting. The line's actually kind of baiting you to take this under, which means maybe you take the over. So if I'm wrong about this, remember this comment that I think the line actually says to bet the other way here, but the weather could be a problem tomorrow in Athens. There could be some storms, some rain, which means running the ball is going to be a thing. We know Alabama can't run the ball. I think Georgia, and the reason I picked Georgia is I think Georgia's going to do everything they can to take away what Ty Simpson can do and get pressure on him. While Wisconsin wasn't able to stop Ty Simpson, Florida State was. And Georgia is a much better team than even Florida State. I think Florida State's good. But I really believe that when you get these SEC matchups, these tough road games for Alabama, it's going to be low scoring. Now, Georgia might be able to put up some points here. Maybe they put up 25, potentially 30, but I don't think Alabama puts up a lot of points. I really think that Alabama's going to have a tough time tomorrow. So I'm taking Alabama at Georgia under 53.5. It's a high number, which again is why it's baiting you to take this. But I don't see them scoring over 53.5 points. I think this to me is kind of a lock. We'll see, but it's a bonus pick. I'm doing 5 this week. Let's go through all of those once again before we close the show. So Alabama at Georgia -3. I'm taking Georgia -3 in that game. They're at home. I don't really see a situation where they can't stop Alabama. So I'm taking Georgia there. Recency bias games, Indiana at Iowa. The line is 8 points. Iowa's getting 8 points because of what Indiana did last week. I'm taking Iowa. That's a really big home dog. And it's a good team that's a home dog. Gronowski's getting better. Iowa +8. USC at Illinois. I'm taking Illinois +6.5 at home. Another home dog. Again, that line is strictly because of what happened last week. If that game against Indiana didn't happen, this line would be maybe Illinois would have been favored in this game, right? So I'll take Illinois +6.5. Ohio State -8.5 at Washington. Did not take the home dog here. Went with the road favorite. Ohio State's just really good. I don't think Washington's going to stop them. I'll take that. My bonus pick, Alabama at Georgia, under 53.5. Yeah, I mean, it's an SEC battle. Don't really see that being a high-scoring game. Good luck with your picks this weekend. Bet responsibly. And thank you so much for your support of the new Saturday Locks channel and this betting show. Have a good weekend. Let's see some great games.